Hello guys, in this quick video you will be using this to solve and understand why the Japanese attacked the United States and became involved in World War II. Now, let's go ahead and begin. So, one thing that a lot of students or most students don't know or don't understand or forget is that this was a global war, which means that the United States was involved in wars both in the Pacific, in Asia, and in Europe. Now, surprisingly, the United States fought multiple wars, and they fought against Imperial Japan. Down below is a map that shows the extent of the Japanese Empire in 1942. So everything in red at one point or another in 1942 was controlled by Japan. So Japan, as we can see, is this right here, and then everything in red, Manchuria, Korea, big parts of China, French Indochina, Siam, Burma, and many more were controlled by by Japan during this time. Now, one thing that people forget is that surprisingly, Japan was actually one of our allies during World War One. That is a typo, so it is World War One. We were actually allies with them, and they helped us defeat the Axis powers of World War One. However, after that war was over, things began to change dramatically. One of those was that Japan began expansion into other parts of Asia in 1931 with the invasion of Manchuria, which is now known as northern China. And this is actually one of the earlier incidents of the fighting in World War II with Japan invading. And there are a lot of experts that believe that Japan fought this war for many reasons. One of those being they wanted more land to live, since Japan is a very small country, very mountainous, so very hard to expand, build cities, have farms, and they wanted greater natural resources, things like oil, coal, salt, and so forth. After the attack on Manchuria in 1937, these attacks continued, and they attacked mainland China. If you look at the map down below, you can kind of see how Japan was slowly starting to increase their control of the Pacific region. Eventually, Japan starts gaining more and more attention, and in 1940 they actually signed an agreement with Germany and Italy, creating what is now known as the Axis power. Now, down below you just kind of see a political cartoon of Mussolini, which was the leader of Italy, Adolf Hitler, and Hideki Tojo, which was a general or prime minister of Japan, and they're kind of carving up their planet just to show that their goal was to take over the world. Now, full disclaimer, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video. I'm going to be skipping and not going in great detail a lot of the battles, a lot of the facts, so I do apologize. I'm just trying to give you enough information so that you can solve challenge number 2. Now, because of Japan's aggression, or because Japan was invading all these other countries, the United States placed economic sanctions on Japan, which meant that they weren't buying or trading with Japan, and that they were preventing them from getting the things that they needed. Now, because of these economic sanctions, Japan faced severe shortages. So, for example, oil was in really low supply in Japan, coal, and those two guys are extremely important when it comes to running our vehicles, factories, military machines, etc., and other resources such as salt, which once again is a major reason why Japan started invading these places in the first place, because They wanted more natural resources. Japan, not being a very large country, has very limited natural resources. Another major reason why Japan was also being aggressive in the Pacific was because Japan wanted to become a major player in the Pacific region. And because prior to World War II, the United States was starting to have a much larger presence in the Philippines, in southern China, and a lot of other European countries controlled places like Indochina, Malaya, and the Dutch East Indies. So they wanted to be able to become a power on their own. And regretfully, Japan decided to attack the United States and major bases or cities that were controlled by the British, which we'll get into that at a later date. Now, that famous attack, most of you, if not all of you, have at least heard it at some point, and that is the attack on Pearl Harbor. Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, on December 7th, 1941. This attack severely damaged the American fleet and navy and stopped an immediate response from the U.S. military. Because many people lost their lives and they crippled our military, our naval base, it took us a little bit of time to kind of rebuild and get things going for us to mount back a retaliation. However, the United States declared war immediately afterward. Now, following that declaration, because Germany, Italy, and Japan were in an alliance, Germany declared war on the United States, thus beginning our involvement in World War II. So because because we declared war on Japan, Germany declared war on us, and vice versa, thus getting us involved in that World War. Now, at the height of the Japanese Empire, you can see here in red that Japan ended up controlling a huge part of Asia. There was a concern of the United States that if we hadn't gotten involved sooner, they would have actually threatened parts of Australia, but it never got that far. Now, go ahead, use this video, solve the challenge, and if you get it right, we can jump on to challenge 3. Thanks.